One. Hey, it's me, it's Big Val again. I'm coming back at you, and I'm here by myself. Not unsupervised, but, I'm a big girl. I can handle it. All right. The reason why I'm here, I'm talking about battered women. I'm going to go into a little bit of a story, and then I'm going to go ahead and start it out, on the next one. But I have never been in a situation where I have been battered before. I did have a situation where a man put his hands on me, a couple other things, but I've never, I talk about them that way, and the one thing that I try to tell my kids, it doesn't matter, because I'm a big girl, and I always felt that I'm a strong person, and no one could really take me. As a kid growing up, I used to always fight guys, because they were competition. All the chick wanted to do is scratch you in the face. I'm not about for all that scratching and stuff. I'll turn you around and knock the hell out you. I, Gene Hackman, Mississippi, smack the shit out you. I ain't get these hands from my mama. They're from my daddy. But I use them like my mama. Um, there's been a lot of situations in the news, even in the celebrity circuit, but mostly in the news, where you've had young girls either battered or beaten, killed by their significant other because they weren't ready to say no, they weren't ready to leave or anything like that. They get themselves so wrapped up, they just don't, it's like, I don't want to be with you anymore. And it's like, hey, well then if I can't be with you, nobody can, and then they take your life. And I just thank God I've never been in that situation. As I would tell my daughters, if you meet someone and they have no respect for their own mother or the women in their family, they're not going to have any respect for you. So you stay away from a person like that. You don't want to deal with a person like that. And the reason why I say that is because I don't know if that was the situation with my stepfather. I do know he was not the best person. He was not the best dad. I did not like him. I despised him, especially when I saw him for the first time put his hands on my mother in a violent way. And he had come home, he was all zooted up on whatever he was on. And we were the type of kid, we were very protective of my mother because it had been a long time since my mother had dealt with anyone. She just had three of us at the time. She married him. It was very quick, and then she had two more kids. So we knew, okay, this is going to be our stepfather. We have to call his Bama dad or whatever, you know. We were born and raised up in Jersey City, New Jersey. So I'm a little bit harder than most, even though I'm down here in the state of Virginia right now. I'm not ghetto. I'm not gangster, but I have been known to step out of character. The one thing I will not take is a man's nonsense, and I have never held my tongue, and I never will hold my tongue when it comes to a man. I don't sit quiet and look pretty. I'm not a dime piece. I'm worth more than 10 cents. I open my mouth and I speak my mind. I've always been that way. I always will be that way. Hopefully, through the grace of God, until the day I die. That's why they call me Big Val, baby. Big Val got a big mouth. Sometimes I sit there and I observe, I watch. But when the time comes for me to open my mouth and say something, I will. Unless it's just like beneath me and I'm just like, I wouldn't waste two breaths a second on that shit. And I don't say a word. I just keep my mouth shut. But I remember seeing my mother for the first time ever in my life with her being with this man. And I can't say being abused. Emotionally, maybe yes, he was abusive. He would talk trash to my mother. But my mother would ignore him. She would go and she would read her Bible, just walk away from him. She wouldn't pay him any attention. Sometimes she would mouth, especially if he spoke of her mother, and she would tell him, don't you talk about my mother. I'll beat your ass. Don't you say nothing about my mama, But one time in particular, my mother, she was just in her room, Petey Joe, because that's what we're going to call him. He had come home and he was on that stuff. He shot up drugs. He was a drug addict. So he shot up. He was probably drinking. And when he did that, he had come to my mother, started some mess, brought up her mother, brought up her father, and there was no reason for that because he wouldn't be there if it had not been for her father. That's number one. That was my granddaddy's house, not his house, not my mother's house. And for whatever reason, he felt obligated to swing on my mother. He punched my mother in the face. He knocked her tooth loose in the back. Now, my mother had very white, beautiful, straight teeth. In her life, she'd only have one cavity. Not one where she had to have it removed, but just that one cavity. And she had to have it filled. And she made that quite clear to us because, unfortunately, all of us was little cavity creeps, you know, because we loved to eat candy and stuff. My mother was not a candy eater like that. Loved her chocolate, them damn chunky bars. I just never understood the whole mix of raisins, dates, and nuts and chocolate. But I liked them. They was good too, you know. But when he hit her, my mother was in shock. And she was like, put her finger in her mouth, saw blood, and I think she never liked to see her own blood. She's like, motherfucker, you stand right there. Now, my mother walked away and went into the kitchen. Now, I'm thinking to myself, what is mama about to do? Now, I did know my mother had a big old pot of black-eyed peas and smoked turkey necks on that stove cooking. But I never knew she was going to take a little pot, dip in that big pot, and pull out some of them black-eyed peas, because they had been cooking for about 3 hours. You know, them damn things was nice and hot. So she came back in the living room with this pot in her hand. She's like, motherfucker, you like to punch women in the mouth and knock they tooth loose? And threw it in his face. And he had a bat in his hand. Okay? He dropped that bat, grabbed his face. My mother slipped and fell in the black-eyed peas. Black-eyed peas. Grabbed that baseball bat. Chased him downstairs in the vestibule. And beat his ass in that hallway. You understand? That day, the cops were called. They only took 10 minutes to get there. Any other day, the cops was called. They take an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, half a damn day. Put in about 3 or 4 calls. But that day, even the policeman said, we just saved your life. Because your wife was about to beat your ass to death. Yes, she was. Because like my mother said, ain't no man ever beat me. Ain't no man ever gonna beat me. And she instilled that in me. I was her only daughter at the time. She instilled that in her other daughter. But she is a man now, so I don't think it really matters. So I will instill that in my children as well. You done been raised once. Mama whoops your ass. You don't let no man put their hands on you. If a man grab you the wrong way, you look at him and tell him, get your damn hands off me, man. If he try to raise his hand up at you, oh, you like to smack women in the face? Stand right there. Now, if the motherfucker stand there, he dumb. And he deserve whatever you about to give him. But we going to close this up and wrap it up right now. And I'm going to come back to you with something else. Because I know someone who was physically abused and who's older now. And who's being verbally and emotionally abused. And I just want to ask someone out there for help. And I guess that's why I put myself out here to talk about it. At one time, me and my friends talk about stuff. You never saw our faces, you know. But I didn't care then. And I just want this to get to the right person. And if you can help, thank God. If you can't help and you just have a thought, as long as ain't no fucked up thought, because I'll come back at you with that nonsense, okay? Thank God for you too. But Tigger, wrap this up. I'm out.